This is number 4 in the series on participant sociological research. The greatest piece of damage to the method of participation to discover the meanings that lie behind everyday life and could generate ethnographies for us all to read, learn and enjoy. Was a little throwaway piece written by Ray Gould many years ago. A taxonomy he produced, which at the top started with full participation and then went, if I remember correctly, to participant as observer as a second category, and then observer as participant. Quite where the line between those two is drawn, I don't know. To full observer. And much has been made of this. It's cited at the beginning of every participant piece of work, as if it was directly from the oracle itself. But it's nonsense. There is only participant sociology. The other 3 categories are for the indolent and the incompetent. Those who wish to spend a couple of weeks, quote, observing as a participant or participating as an observer or whatever it is, you can dismiss those 3 categories entirely. There is so much observational material around, we don't need to generate observational material. Since the path-breaking Thames Valley police study in the UK, the first fly on the wall as they were called then, been overtaken by a plethora of studies, observation studies, generically grouped under the fatuous title of reality television. If you want a reasonable view of what goes on in police stations, you can watch 24 hours in the police station. It's an hour-long programme each time. Or if you're interested in hospitals, you can watch 24 hours in A&E. This stuff falls off the television like ripe fruit every night. If you think observation has any value, it's already been taken over by TV with their budgets. Of course you'll say they can only film a particular point of view from a particular time and space, and it inevitably edited. Well, that's exactly what happens to human beings in real social situations. They can only be in one place at a time, and naturally we all edit. Edit is the price of communication. So forget all the observational nonsense. The second, much more serious difficulty is if you try and impose any of the strictures, methods or procedures of verification positivism, then you will immediately destroy induction. Let's say that again. You will immediately destroy any sense that you're inducing theory from the materials at hand if you try and import even the smallest number of bits and pieces of positivistic technology. What happens is, in the words of the great Florian Zaniacki in his book, The Method of Sociology, published in 1934, I believe. And I'm sorry about going back to old pieces of work, but there's so little written about participant observation and its associated methodologies. So little of any import, let alone so little of anything, that you have to go back a long way to find authoritative understanding. This is what Zaniacki says, and I quote, "An attempt to discover some final truths about a certain class of empirical data circumscribed in advance by studying a number of cases belonging to this class, you can find nothing in the definition of the class that you've not already put into it. Discovery will be purely illusory, will consist at best of making explicit what was already implicit in the definition itself." This is very important. It translates analytic induction into what Zaniacki called enumerative induction. That is, it moves you inexorably from generalizing by abstracting from the data to abstracting by generalizing from the data. And it's a key flaw in attempts to oppose any structure, timing, method, duration, samples, hypotheses, any of these things on the body of data that you're watching flow beneath your gaze, and you're taking part in the activity that for some reason you wish to study. So participation has to be always open. You cannot do a proper period of participant observation unless you are open to topic. As you go into a situation, a workplace, a group of some sort of sociological grouping, particularly, well, I'll give another example, Bill White's work, Street Corner Society, great friend of Donald Roy, the great researcher, the great ethnographic researcher. He hung out, worked with, lived with his boys on the corner. It has to be closed as to topic, but totally closed. Open to topic, I'm sorry. It has to be totally open to topic, but totally closed when it comes to the methods that you use. And these methods would not pass an ethics committee. They are deceitful, they are undercover, they are underhand. They almost play the role, Goffman once said, of the defrocked police. This is what you have to do. Sod ethics. Ethics are merely devices to keep the elderly in power and to restrict the imagination and enthusiasm of the young. You never really fool anybody anyway. When I worked in the bakery for 2.5 years, I thought I was fully immersed. But when we were talking about the great cake theft, the root subject of the second book, Controlology, someone told me late in the day, oh, they said, Jason knows about it, but he won't tell anybody. Actually, I didn't know anything about it at all. It had all been done secretly from me as well. Why wouldn't they? Why would they tell? Why would they drag me in? I wasn't part of it. They wouldn't involve me. Earlier, when I'd been working on the production side and the dispatching side of the bakery operation, one of the roundsmen said to me, one of the baker's roundsmen who would go out with their little lorries full of bread to retail or wholesale customers, said to me, I never approached you. That's for extra bread, that's for a bit of a fiddle. Down at the bakery. You stand out, see? And most people realise you stood out. You weren't supposed to be there. Now, I was dressed like everybody else. Thin overalls, great big workman's boots, pencil behind the ear, no scrap of paper, no notebook visible to anybody. You weren't supposed to be there, he went on. And that was it, he said. You didn't look like a bakery person. So you never really fool anybody anyway. That's why you have to indulge in deceit from start to finish.